Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. This week, my goodness, this week, I keep saying, oh yeah, this will be more, more of a relaxing endeavor this time, and I keep getting mistaken. I said that after, 2 weeks ago after the Music God remake came out, and I said it's last week too. I was like, oh, well, that was all the residual stuff that I need to get through. What's going to happen this time? Well, a lot. But before we get to that, I do have to retract a statement that I made in the last Walking Wednesday, where I said that I wasn't able to submit the application in time to continue in the language system program, and that I couldn't contact them to help because of for reasons based on why I couldn't actually do it. As it turns out, they did get back to me, and there was still time. It was a deadline of 11:59 and not of midnight, so I had an extra, nearly 24 hours in order to, do stuff. So, yeah, basically I refilled everything because I already had all of the paperwork and documentation, and it was actually much easier because they didn't actually request as many things. And they seem to already have my previous application on a Profix account that I don't remember making because I just also had to register again. So I don't know how they had that, but I guess my info was somewhere, and there you go. I noticed the difference in the hyperlinks as well, because that was also another thing that I that I looked for. So yeah, that was that. So I'm still in the game in terms of that. Again, it will once again depend on whether or not I decide to apply for a master's and I actually decide to retract that. But the deadline was that, so I need to get it in, regardless. You do and have the option. I want to have the option basically. So that's all sorted. But yeah, now onto, I think, the crazy stuff. And I think we'll start with the choir performances, of which there were 3. So I didn't know this until the rehearsal last week, where they said, oh, well, there's going to be a... oh, wait, no, it wasn't last week. It was actually Monday. The director called in they called in an extra rehearsal on Monday, and actually I went to coincide with the only class that I had on that day because I still hadn't. I've yet to receive my new schedules because of the whole welding graduation. I will loop back to that idea at the end of everything else I have to say, and sorry, I need to check. Okay, and essentially, because of that, I only had one class on that day, and I had to request to miss it because the director forgot to ask teacher 1. Well, sorry, teacher 5, not teacher 1. Teacher 1 retired. Teacher 5 in order to let me loose. So that was all fine. And then that's when I found out that there was apparently something to do with the market, the local markets. I just remember they're doing roadworks here. See if I can. It's not worth it. I'll just go down and round. Now I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah. So our first, I say first, our second official presentation, if you count our December performance at the old folks' home, our second gig as a choir was actually in the middle of one of the market buildings, which is the most Galician thing I think I've ever experienced, let's say. But yeah, I say? But that was happening on Thursday, and I don't remember when that was decided, because we've been talking about, well, we talked about the 21st actually as our as our big debut. Well, not a big debut. Oh, our good grief again. Several of them. Okay. Not lost my train of thought again. Thanks, dogs. Yeah. So we're thinking of the 21st, and then it turns out that got rescheduled to the 28th, which is bizarre for reasons that I'll get to in a second. So basically, because of that, Thursday 27th was essentially like another trial run for us. We did our entire repertoire that we planned to do the very next day anyway, and it was one of the audience members' birthdays, so we sang to her. That was our first thing. So we did a unique performance, and yeah. And there was a surprising amount of people who actually came to see that. In fact, I actually arrived early because I told the director, you know, I will meet you down there because actually the marketplace is closer to my apartment than the school is. So I thought, okay, well, I've got nothing else going on today particularly. Again, for... Oh, actually, no, that was because I need to ask permission again to miss again the one class that I had on that day. So I wasn't one class on Monday, it was one class on Thursday, but I had to miss one on each day anyway. So the only class I had on Thursday, I got permission to miss that, and then I said, okay, I'll meet you down there. I guess that part he didn't get the memo for. So at one point when I was there, I arrived and he called me asking where I was. So I asked, you know, where he was, because no one else had showed up. I don't know if they were waiting for me or not. That I'm still unclear on. But yeah, essentially I was there, and I heard some of the market goers talking about the choir, partly because they were wondering what I was doing, because I was there wearing the t-shirt with the logo of the choir on it, which apparently was supposed to go on the back of the shirt, which to me seems like not the best advertising, because, you know, people wear jackets and bags. I'm in fact wearing both as we speak. But yeah, so I had it on back to front, as it turns out, but it got people talking, and yeah, a lot of them, I guess, well, some of them were parents. One of them asked me if I was the music teacher, because, you know, just, again, attire. But as I explained, no, I'm the language assistant. The teacher is this other guy. Apparently someone hadn't paid for the shirt yet or whatever, so I got talking to some of the parents who are already there, again, waiting. And yeah, a few of them arrived a bit early because one of them had mobility issues, so she was let out early to arrive, and then after everyone else came walking down to the marketplace, eventually, half an hour late, I think, which was essentially almost the entirety of the class that I was given an excuse to miss. So I pretty much could have done most of the entire thing if I had known that information going forward. But there you are. So eventually we arrived, sang happy birthday to the person, did our entire repertoire, and that was that. You know, Thursday performance. You know, we found out that one of the songs was a little bit fast, because people's nerves started to kick in, so everything kind of sped up for that particular number. Especially because we actually start that one off a cappella, and then instruments follow. Well, no, we don't start it off because the flute starts it off, but then we continue a cappella. So kind of affected a lot of things in terms of the instruments coming in after us, including said student with mobility issues, who was playing the spoons and had to actually follow along in real time based on the accelerated process. So I pointed that out afterwards, and I thought, okay, well, we need to establish that before we perform on Friday. So I bring it up on Friday to the best of my ability, and we don't really have much time to rehearse anyway, so it doesn't really get implemented, but I just have to have faith that it's all going to go fine. So now, to talk about Friday. Friday was interesting because, again, I'm surprised this got changed because it seemed like the event wasn't just for us. So we, so we were there among like several other people. There were some doing like poetry presentations, some others. Well, there's not like a video presentation that was put together, and so it turns out that actually the event in question was being held at the town hall, which we recently just passed. Actually, I didn't show it on camera, but we missed it, and it was all to do with it was all to do with promoting women. So it was about, you know, like, it was about the role of women, I guess, you know, giving them a voice, etc., etc. Of course, not excluding the men, because otherwise, you know, some of us wouldn't have performed. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, I guess there was an event that, you know, we kind of got tapped onto. I say that because, given the fact that it had such a such like a feminist persuasion was the event itself. No one actually told us that before we were there. Like, I don't know if they got an announcement on like their you know, like e-service or something, which is the reason that I don't find out about anything, because I don't have an account on that, neither a teacher nor a student one. So, but it did seem like, you know, if we'd been prepared with that knowledge, we might have done a few things differently. Because one of the songs from our repertoire, one of our most practiced songs in fact, was actually a competition song that's like one of the traditional Galician songs, where like the men and women kind of face off against each other. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like maybe the message of giving women a voice and promoting gender equality might get a little lost if one of the songs specifically is about men and women insulting each other. Like, yes, the women do it first, but then the men, in fact, respond. And you know what? And you know what? I'll just sing this particular part of the song in question, and you let me know what you think if you speak Gallego at all. Y as mocinhas que aqui están, todas têm as pernas tortas, e umas sirvem para beacas, e outras para trancar as portas. Like, I don't know everything that means, but from what I've been told from the reactions of the people in the choir itself, it's not exactly a reigning endorsement on women. Of course, the women themselves, they also have the Nesta rua non hai homens, saturusha nas mulheres, Os pocos hombres que hay son parábolas de colleres. So there is like an equivalent exchange there. But again, I don't know if the message of, like, you know, talk about the separations between them from a traditional song that was written, I don't know, probably centuries ago, is the right way to go about that. The rest of the repertoire was fine, but I mean, it just seemed like, again, if we'd known going in what we were prepared for, we'd be like, oh yeah, we would probably made a few different choices, or potentially skipped it over. I don't really know. Because we had a bunch of other songs too that we weren't going to take with us on Sunday for our actual competition, which is the thing that we've been really preparing for. So we had that gig, and then And actually, you know, it was an incredibly emotional one because like the audience really loved it. Like, you know, we got standing ovations. You know, everyone was cheering, and even the director, you know, teared up based on seeing the fruits of his labor come to life. And you know, now that I think about it, remember how I said that one of the things that we're working on is Vois sur ton chemin? Like, yeah, that one particularly. Given the fact that it's from a movie that's all about a teacher that, you know, joins a school and then pretty much immediately starts a choir, yeah, it kind of reigns true as to why, you know, that one was chosen, because I have a special connection to it because I saw the movie, really liked that song, and chose it as my outro on YouTube for some years, and that's why I was very adamant about, you know, keeping it in and, you know, keeping it as French as possible and all that stuff. But I didn't realize, yeah, actually, if you think about it, the director, who apparently it's his first like full school year at the school itself, and he immediately wanted to start a choir. So now he was seeing that come to life. Like, it wasn't like a case of you know, really badly behaved, essentially, I was going to say inner city. No, that's not big inner city. It was a private school. Inner city was Sister Act 2, which has the same plot, incidentally, if you think about it. Les Choristes and Sister Act 2 have the same plot. Think about that. But yeah. Yeah, it rings true, and I think like that's why you got to tee it up, because like he actually got to use the exact same song in his particular, you know, debut. Not to mention that 2 of the songs that we did were his arrangements. I think the one that I sang before was also his arrangement, which is possibly why it wasn't cut, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like that was that was definitely one of our best runs, and it used to be very rare that we would like get to like have everyone around like multiple sections. Most, like all the other choirs that I have rehearsed with, always started off with, you know, rehearsing with every section together, so that they could always get like the idea for the sound. If you weren't there, then you catch up next week or whatever. This choir, of course, was different in the sense that he chose to separate us, and that's why I was going there, like rehearsing, you know, 4 days of the week, because I was in all 4 of the sections. Well, at least I rehearsed with all 4 of them, just in case I had to sub in. I was the Joker, after all. I still am. And yeah, like of course the Wednesday rehearsals are the ones where, you know, we get to hear what we actually sounded like, and even then people had exams. There were complications. We didn't rehearse every single song a lot of the time because the Galician ones got priority for reasons I'll explain in a while. And yeah, it was a whole thing. So really, there were only a few times that we actually get to understand like how we sound together. Almost kind of like our very own choir movie, if you think about it. Because it's almost like we came together in the final act and we actually realized like how good we sounded after all. Almost kind of like a Pitch Perfect situation, which again is almost somewhat fitting for what we did on Sunday. Because yeah, on Sunday we had the actual youth choir competition to look forward to. And that one was well, that one actually, we limited our repertoire because we only had apparently 15 minutes on stage, and 12 to 15 minutes. 12 was the minimum. But yeah, we had 4 songs, so we had, you know, that was all covered. That was all fine. But yeah, even before that, I had, you know, one day in between, and I used that day not to fully rest, not even in the vocal department actually, because while this was going on, in one of the rare occasions that Aidan managed to catch me in the past few weeks, and from whenever I was free, he made a passing comment that kind of that kind of, you know, went against what he was predicting, but that's what he wanted in the end. So what happened was, back in December, Aidan got me to agree to release an AFMAO parody once a month until season 7 of My Street eventually premieres. At least that was the idea. So that's why there's been one of those, you know, once every month. And I said that I wouldn't work on that at all until after the Mutant Go remake came out. So I didn't. And that didn't leave too much time, because again, that was when a lot of other craziness happened. I mentioned that last week. I was also exceptionally tired. So basically he was just like, yeah, March was too busy. I don't think we're going to get a song out this month. And to which I thought to myself, or will we? We'd had an idea for some time about, and we were going to eventually sit down and write the Ivan parody anyway, intended for an April release, not a March release. And I said, you know, put your ideas in the documents, which he didn't actually do. But then I was thinking, okay, well, I mean, we don't have to be together to write this necessarily. So I went ahead and I'd already been working on it in the background, but I decided to go ahead and finish it and record it on Saturday. And so by the time that Aidan calls me on, I think it was Sunday after the competition, I actually was able to say, yeah, about that. Here's the audio. I've already finished it. I've got mud on my shoe. I'll probably have to go home and get that changed. Anyway, so yeah, he actually then took it from there and edited the music video together. I, in the meantime, worked on the captions with Gling AI and made sure I recorded like the eloquent version. I think I might have done that on Sunday actually. So there is a spoken version of that, of course. And eventually, yeah, it came out March 31st. We were just in time, because of course we were. But that was, of course, I think that might have been a Monday thing, if I remember correctly, or even like later on actually. Yeah, but no, it was Monday, because Sunday was the 30th, and also the day of the competition. So, while Aidan was working on the music video portion, and before I got to my bit, you know, I was off in Vigo, which is the nearest big city to where we are now, and we were off. We were off, you know, rehearsing for like in the middle of the town itself, just before we went into this big theatre where the different choir groups were. So yeah, we had the limited 4 songs, including the one that I said we should have cut for Friday, which would have been fine for the actual competition, and it was. And that one was the cause of greater nerves, because I guess it was a bit more of a prestigious event, if you will, compared to, you know, the town hall. So yeah, I mean, of course, you know, there I was, getting, you know, as pumped as ever, because that's always what happens whenever the larger the crowd, the more energy that I absorb from them. I'm essentially like Zombozo from Ben 10, but it's far more consensual. So take that for what you will. But yeah, we were second on, I think. So, you know, we actually got to hear a little bit of the first group, which we are now considering siphoning a song from them, because we might like add some new stuff now that we've you know, got a chance before, I don't know, a gig in the next 2 months, basically. And yeah, so we perform our bits. It goes mostly well. Unfortunately, again, we never managed to properly address the song that was really fast. I did bring it up to the director, and he said like, oh yeah, well that's because, like, you know, people are nervous. And so it's like, yeah, I know it's because they're nervous, but we need to address that, you know? Poor insert name of student here is having to follow us along with the spoons and is having to go at 100 kilometers an hour. Like, that's not fair on her. But unfortunately, that didn't really go anywhere. We were still very quick, but the principal had a talk with her. She was also really nervous because, like, she said that, of course, if she messed up with the spoons, it's not like in a choir where if like you mess up, no one knows that it was you necessarily. But because she was the only one playing the spoons, if she got the timing wrong, everyone would realize, you know, your classic anxiety-fueled stage fright. Well, I guess all stage fright is anxiety-fueled if you think about it some way, but whatever. So yeah, for her, it didn't end up, in her mind, it didn't go so well. Everyone loved it. I don't think there was, okay, actually I was gonna say there was a single like bad performance from the choirs. I think there was a choir that I struggled to hear. It was one of the younger choirs, actually. It was the only one that had kids in it, actually. I think it was like primary and secondary. So I can sort of see why. But yeah, because I wasn't able to hear most of what they did, I couldn't really, you know, say for certain. Unfortunately, they were the last ones on. And also they followed the group that were the favourites to win. Because there was a choir group that was more traditional than us, and by which I mean they did songs that were clearly written for a choir, if you know what I mean. Like one song they had was just them singing Alleluia in different harmonies. They even had like different choreography imposed. They had like a more traditional uniform with like you know, like red like frilly dresses, or like, you know, full like black suits for the guys. You know, it was the whole thing. And yeah, like everyone from when we were in the audience at this point, because we already finished, everyone pretty much agreed, yeah, they absolutely were going to win. Turns out they came third, so I'm sure there was more at play than just what we ourselves were looking for, which again is what you want. So you don't want, hold on. Oh good, he's going around. Yeah, make sure you cover all the fencing territory. That's fantastic. Yep, I saw you before. Anyways, so yeah, because that's what you want essentially. You don't want to, you know, hand all of the trophies automatically to, you know, the Rosie Clotties of the world. Gotcha, Guild Awards. You want to have a lot more in consideration. So yeah, it really depends. But yeah, we actually did win an award, not the full event. In fact, we actually had a couple of a couple of like close calls because there was an institute that had like a very similar name to us. So we kept on thinking we were talking about us to talk about the other one. Who I guess like I think the director left early, so someone else had to come in and sub for them and receive their trophies. Which, you know, not going to be there for the reception. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, at any rate, at any rate, we actually did receive like an award specifically for performing all of our songs in Gallego, in Galician. So that was why we chose those particular four and why we rehearsed them so much in comparison to all of the others. Which now I'm thinking might actually flip because, you know, it used to be quite an international affair, basically. We had, you know, songs we would warm up to in Latin, Italian, of course, Last Story was French, but, you know, that was not a warm-up one. We had, obviously, Castellano as well, Castilian Spanish. No English ones. I did pitch one, but that was deemed too difficult. You know, the one language that basically everyone in the school learns as part of the curriculum, aside from Galician. Too complicated, apparently. Whatever. I'm going to pitch another song, actually, that I think would be really good. Which reminds me, I need to actually find that arrangement for it and send it over. And I forgot. So, yeah. But yeah, we really but yeah, like after that, the director said to me, because after like, all the events were done, I had a drink with him and the headmaster, and you know, he was saying, you know, what, like, how long have you got left here? To me, and you know, what, and I said, okay, well, my time at the school ends on May 31st. So he said, oh, well, we really ought to make like another do another concert or something before that. So he's now looking for, I guess, like other venues or something, you know, something to you know, round that off. So yeah, something else potentially will be happening sometime in the future, but I'm guessing that for today, either he hasn't told me the rehearsal has been cancelled, in which case I will find out beforehand and have like an hour or so to finish typing up my book, which I am on the last 10 pages of, by the way, before I finish like that particular portion. I wait for, it was like 1-2 weeks before Semana Santa, and then I got to see my parents, and then they'll help, and then I'll get like the full version. So again, more stuff that's happening. But yeah, that's that almost seemed like, okay, well, that take us up to Monday, and that would have been pretty much it. And then I got pulled onto Discord, and you know, because there was some tea that needs to be shared. I'm going to go back this way because I'm not finished talking. So, what happened then was, Bon had something to share that was about a particular person. I won't say right now, but about some behind the scenes stuff that needed some, you know, sorting out and clarifying, and also just a place to vent, you know, your standard stuff. I won't repeat anything that was said there. I'll just say that it mildly involved Treat Pop, not as in Tamsin, not because of anything that she had done, but just because like what happened concerned her also. That's all I'll say about that. And the only reason that that's relevant is because right afterwards is when Ghosty also shared what was old news essentially, but was somewhat new to me because it happened on my birthday, and I was intentionally told to keep aside from it, even though it happened on one of my servers. So that's when we found out about the event concerning the logo that Ghosty had agreed to make for Tree Pop with Tree Pop, and the subsequent revelation that that a brand new logo just appeared one day, made by Tamsin herself, and on the server, and she seemed woefully unconcerned about the fact that Ghosty had been working for the longest time on the logo itself that she said she was going to, but instead all she asked everyone repeatedly was, what do they think of her design? It didn't matter what we thought of her design. It was still a scummy move to go ahead and make one anyway without communicating to Ghosty, or at least admitting you forgot. That would have been something, but no, we didn't get that. And then she did in fact move ahead eventually with the logo itself, and she asked Ghosty how she wished to be credited, as one would. So Ghosty then gives very specific instructions of, for any video that you use, the logo in, please in the description, say it was made by me, and then link my blue sky. And that was immediately when Tamsin decided to go, or I can give one community post and be done with it. Here's the problem with community posts. Eventually, you will just fade from them. This is something that Tamsin hasn't quite learned, because for a while before she had Discord, she used to just put lines for her stuff on community posts. And then she would say to you, oh, you missed these particular lines or something. And then you have to scroll through, like a very active community tab in the first place to find the exact ones that you were pinged in, which isn't like Discord. It doesn't quite tell you in the same way. So eventually that navigation was too much, and she eventually, switched over to Discord. Still no script writing, but as we've learnt recently, Tree Pop is not the best at listening to people, so that's no surprise. I went in a circle. I was here before. Which means if I continue down this path, I'll end up in Dog City again, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so the community post thing is not really the same. That's why, in most cases of voice actor credits, you will have, or even like other credits, you have them per installment. It's not like you have like a bonus feature on movie DVDs or something that says, by the way, these people made this thing. Because most of it involves like, okay, well, you want people to see them. The whole point of credits is people to see them and be like, okay, well, I might, hire these people in the future. That'd be nice. I might contact this agency or speak to this company. In the case of big production stuff, but in the case of internet stuff, it's even more important, I think, because those people mostly are independent artists trying to get themselves out there. And if Ghosty's trying to make Blue Sky work for her in terms of social media, she deserves to be given that chance. But Tree Pop was denying her that chance. And in fact, even though she's the one who asked the question, and Ghosty gave her a very concrete answer, she went ahead with her plan, despite everything that Ghosty said. And that's when I decided to interfere, because it would be one thing if, the logo thing was resolved, and that was that. But if it was the credit thing where I was like, okay, well, if this is still ongoing, there's a whole list of these videos where there needs to be something here, and there isn't. So, what gives? So I was like, okay, well, this is all, like, this is a matter for the public now, because it was on community posts, and because I know Tyler's going to watch the video in question, and I need to tell people as well, if you want to work with this individual, make sure you know what you're getting into, because they clearly do not, they lack the sense of morality or ethics that would be required to collaborate with anyone. And also, they lack the willingness to listen to those people unless they are properly shamed for not doing so. I've called out Tree Pop in the past via a huge comment thread, and it seemed to work. And in response to this video, she was talking about April Fool's pranks, and she said she had questions about the stream itself, but that she had to rewatch it first. Then went to rewatch it, and didn't tell me anything. Didn't ask any questions about it. So, as far as I'm concerned, despite all of my best attempts, she has learned nothing. So I am officially done with looking at True Pop videos until she just actively makes an effort to listen to others and improve, both as a creator and as an actual human being. So that's that. And then, of course, there was April Fool's yesterday, the actual April Fool's joke that I had, which was, again, another look at Giovanni Studios. And that one took a while to set up because I made a mistake on that one. So Ghost Kitty pointed out to me that we already watched the full version, the full series of La Venganza, or The Revenge. And I don't remember that because the La Venganza review was titled Episode 1 and not the full series, like I thought. So it seems like we just broke down the entire series going through there, and then instead of Episode 1, like I thought I just fixed that part because I did that in Spanish. I thought, okay, well, that deserves an actual proper, a proper review. That was the idea anyway. So, yeah, error on my part for sure. But, one thing that I fixed in the span of 20 minutes and looked at the next thing. El odio, the hatred. Which was exceptionally, ironic timing because going back to what I was saying right at the beginning, when I said I haven't got my schedule for the welding class yet, for the new welding class, I actually just finished my first official lesson with them. In an actual classroom this time, so a more familiar setting for me. And of course with some students that I'm supposed to also evaluate apparently for, Erasmus, based on I grade them based on how they are relative to each other. And that's going to be an interesting thing because I also don't know them, so well, it's not properly. I've learned a bit about them now because I made them choose themselves, but that's it. But so I used my introductory presentation, and if you remember from back in October, that presentation involves talking about my YouTube channel. You pick new routes and this is what you get. That's why I keep going to that park. Anyway, so I showed them a lot of stuff. I showed them the Ivan parody. I showed them a bit of Mutant Girl. I showed them. They also asked me questions about if I sang in different genres or something. They're interested in the song, so I showed them the first part of the Zayn song and also Bad Boy. And we talked about if they did any social medias and any other questions they might have. And to be honest, it actually went better than I expected because, the welding teacher made it sound like, they would have no English level at all, really. Or at least not much. Because again, the welding FP, they call it, Formation Professional Formation, they, is a lot of them didn't actually get good grades in their other academics, and so they're returning to secondary school in order to do a professional formation. It's something they actually do. They can do. That's the idea, at least. But yeah, it depends, because some of them, of course, remember more English than they would. A lot of them, actually, the reason for lack of practice also is because they haven't really they haven't used English. They learned how to do it. They learned how to pass grades, talking about it, but they didn't really treat it. They don't treat it necessarily like the language that it is. At least not for the most part. There's a dog coming right up. Oh, it's coming. All right. I was about to say, yep, there's a dog following me now. When they're loose, it's worse. As you know, when loose, they're quieter. Never mind. There's not. If they're on a leash, they're worse. Never mind. Yeah, so I now know a little bit of what I'm getting to, and the coordinator, again, teacher 4, and the welding teacher have talked now about my schedule, but all that came from that really was, you know, the welding teacher said to me, oh, good news, you know, teacher 4 lets you, is letting you, you know, assist my class again for my hours plural, not just this one. Because the welding teacher told me specifically that he had, you know, like, you know, Wednesday period 4. And, you know, did I have that free? And this week I did. Next week, I don't know. I don't remember. Probably, but I'm not sure. So instead, I've been filling in any, you know, English hours that I would have with teacher 2, but were cancelled due to, you know, me going to the welding class. It's a revision week this time, so I've been designing gacha characters with them again. But that also means I've had I've had more repeat classes than ever. Because you know how I said with teacher 2 I had 3 classes with one group and 1 class with another and 2 with the rest of them? Yeah, now it's pretty much all 3s, just me trying to fill in those hours for the ones that I can. And also to, you know, be fair to the group that I always have like 1 hour with, because it's not, they haven't had much exposure. That's the whole point of this. You know, they also have a reason to, you know, talk to English, because then again, they do have, they do have a British girl in the class. So it's actually, there is a student in that particular class that, that is fluent in English and has, you know, perfect accent and all of that, because one of her parents is, or possibly both, are English, and I forget what whatever. But the thing is, of course, much like when I was in that same boat back in the day, I just spoke to everyone in Spanish. Aside from in English class, because that was when we were like told and we were obligated to speak in English. And because we had so much focus on English, it was a bilingual school, everyone was able to do so to some degree. But yeah, aside from that, we didn't really. I remember we had like 1 hour in of essentially PE. We had English PE and Spanish PE. It was a kind of a weird formation. But at one point, I'm lucky enough, I think I broke something in my arm. Oh no, I didn't. I pulled a muscle. I didn't break a bone. I pulled a muscle. So I was excused. And I can't remember why, but the other kid that had a British father was also excused. So, and we were already, you know, good friends, but we talked to each other in Spanish all the time. And for that class, you know, we just had a conversation in English like we normally would. And it was kind of a weird situation because, like, I mean, it worked perfectly well, but it was just strange. And no, it wasn't Adri. I'm not talking about Adri here. Adri was also weird to talk to in English for some time, but eventually got used to it because of, you know, the other people around us. But yeah, I get questions nowadays with you know, my Spanish friends, you know, about why I don't ever talk to them in English, because they could use the practice or whatnot. One of them now works at an insurance company, so that's American owned, so he talks English all the time as well. But I haven't spoken to him. It's weird. That's the thing. It's too weird to do that. Outside of when we were literally forced to do that, it doesn't feel natural to any of us, you know, despite everyone's proficiency. Some of them aren't as confident anymore, but again, it's, you know, that's all. Confidence does not equal skill, or vice versa. So it depends. But yeah, I think that's everything. So it's ironic that I had a Spanish video posted right before I talked about, you know, my videos and live streams, and answered a lot of details about them and told them about my channel. That being said, the welding teacher was actually very upfront with them. So most of the time, students will discover that I can speak Spanish if they ask me like questions of how do you say certain things, or, you know, how do you, they don't know certain words, so I respond to them in English after they talk to me in Spanish, and they're like, oh, you understand me? That's mostly how it happened, aside from, of course, the famous, you know, obradoiro for regueifas, and that was the whole, thing back in November that I was really worried about. For the most part, I'm supposed to pretend that I don't speak Spanish. The exception to that was because hold on a second. The main other thing was that this time he said outright in both English and Spanish that I spoke Spanish perfectly, but because psychologically the language that you introduce yourself to a person in is most likely the one you're going to use to communicate with them for the rest of time, or for with that person. So to get used to that, I'm not allowed to speak to them in Spanish. That's the rule. So that kind of is, that kind of makes the exception, my Spanish friends, because I didn't know enough Spanish to talk to them in English, but they also tried their best to talk to me in Spanish, and then eventually I caught up. So maybe it was a little bit of both in that case. But most of the time, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. So, they again, they did better than I thought, because the teacher didn't paint a good picture, and doesn't really ever usually. But I'd say maybe it's because the teacher was there, but they engaged with me in English more and probably more efficiently than the second years that just graduated. Eventually they kind of got used to talking to me in Spanish because they knew they were able to, after I had to resort to so much Spanish in the first place. By the way, we're back, Town Hall. Our gig was in there. The Friday one, at least. So yeah, I'm more confident than I was before. Although I'm not sure how the lessons themselves are going to go, because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. Because normally teachers will tell me what things to cover with them, and I'm not sure if because most of the time that's left up to me to decide, conversation topics. But because there's so many of them, in theory, there's actually one less than the second years, but I think some of them were absent. He said we couldn't afford to take them separately, so as in do like a face-to-face within like 3-in-1 groups and whatever. So yeah, it's going to seem much more like the regular classes, but to what extent is hard to say. That being said, it's for once I have a regularly scheduled class every single week, and potentially more if I get the official schedule, which means I can maybe stop just trying to track down the teachers on WhatsApp and insist to them, what are we doing this week, what do I need to prepare. I can actually probably get a little bit more of a structure going, which is what I intended to do in the first place. They seem to like my songs. I could potentially write some songs for them for English stuff, which is what I intended to do for the other classes, but I couldn't when I discovered I had a rotating schedule every 4 weeks and not enough time to prepare stuff for multiple year groups. So yeah, maybe this will work out after all, if they seem to be invested in that idea. And that was, again, part of what I envisioned for this program in the first place. So everything is looking very much up this week. So look forward to the crash next week, now that I've jinxed it. But yeah, I'm really hoping that I get some chance to actually, properly decompose after so many of those, okay, there's this thing next, there's this thing next. We'll see how that goes, because also Teacher 4 has me next week. I'm skipping Teacher 3 again, and we'll see, because she also said that there's specific things they're preparing for that I'm going to look into a little bit ahead of time as well. So I don't know. Still a lot to be getting on with, but at least, hey, we got the Aftermath parody out, and we've almost finished writing the next one also. So look forward to that sometime this month, and a lot less Spanish from me, at least on camera. So yeah, and also we want to do some more Sword on My Lawn, because we've been working on that too. We finished Scene 1 Episode 2, which is a very long one, we want to build up more about the world and do a bunch of other stuff while the people are sending in their lines. So yeah, all that good stuff. And for now, I think I've got time for food before I have a choir rehearsal. Unless it's been cancelled to let everyone rest. I don't know, we'll find out, because I don't get told anything. So please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. Subscribe to us already, and on that note, until next time, farewell.